Hey everyone, I'm Jay.
I'm Sophia.
And I'm Scott. Welcome to Witches Betwixt. It was cool. I had fun and it was nice.
Yeah.
And I just felt good. Yeah, I walked Darian and to work. I walked into work and then walked back to Acme.
With
It
a
was good.
leash and everything?
Nice.
You said like you walked up like you took
Walked
your dog
out,
for
yeah.
a walk. And I was like, excuse me.
I'll get in trouble if I make a joke like that.
Hey, by the way, I moved. Take a look at my new place. Wow.
Oh shit, wait, let me...
How do I do this?
I got a PS5, you can see.
Oh my god, shut
That's
the
a
hell
really
up.
nice space.
It's just I'm playing Kingdom Hearts 3, man, and all I want is a PS5.
Yeah.
I just want a PS5.
Well, the
please.
PS5 isn't a huge upgrade on the graphics, but it is a big upgrade on the haptic feedback, which is the controller.
Yeah.
And that's
our controller
this
shit.
this window, it has two spots that open. Here's my altar. I got a votive candle going, as I'm sure you can
Nice.
see.
No.
But one of these windows that open here has over double the amount of airflow that my old windows did. So, like, as somebody who has asthma and a dust allergy, this space is like wonders. Like, I can immediately breathe better
is
just
a
being here.
That's
really
awesome.
nice space too. I like the
Yeah.
layout of the room. The
Thank
layout's
you.
really nice.
I sleep north to south.
I was gonna say I could tell. Very functional.
Yeah. So yeah, I was telling Scott a little earlier how I moved to Witchwood and how cool it is here, and I got nice new roommates who are really cool, and just slowly kind of figuring my life out all over again. Ugh. Scott, I got an apprenticeship.
I saw that. I hope I hearted it. I meant to.
That's
I saw
okay.
when you posted it. But yeah, I was really
Yeah.
excited for you. That's awesome.
I work in locations now. I mean, I already worked in locations, but I'm like middle management in locations instead of like being a grunt.
That's cool.
Because like locations, as far as the department goes, is explicitly just a management department, because we're like there to manage the property to make sure that like things don't get broken and nobody gets hurt, things like that. So I'm kind of a manager, but like a middle manager, not like an upper manager,
Yeah, that's really cool.
You're
That's
getting there.
awesome.
Yeah, and like I don't know, life is really kind of starting to take off. And are we recording, Jay?
Yeah, we are recording, yes. I've been recording
Yeah.
for the past 2 minutes.
Yeah, like the people I moved in with do some local community organization in the queer community out here, and that's really cool. And they're actively doing a poetry reading night right now, and I would have joined them, except we're doing our podcast right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, between that and like getting into an LPA in the film industry and meeting people, and like I was at a indie film shoot. It wasn't a film shoot, it was a photo shoot last night.
Mm-hmm.
With like 2 underground artists in Toronto who are doing like a bunch of stuff. So I was helping with like stuff outside of my department expertise there, like set decoration and wardrobe, which apparently I'm good at now. So although it's not like that's an official set, it was like a set that we did in someone's basement, So
Yeah.
I'm just adjusting to life being weird, like between the podcast and like working on new DKMU books, like things are going directions and things are happening, and I feel like you're never ready for success until it kind of comes up and it sneaks up on you. And when you're in that phase where you're worried about it, you're like, oh God, what if something I said from like 5 years ago was wrong? And someone comes to be like, hey, that thing you said on this episode is shit. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry,
I know, I think about that often, like about things I've said in like past episodes, just even here, or just, shit that anyone could dredge up from me at any point in my life, and I really can't. You can't let it like dominate your thoughts, because
I feel like
at the end of the day,
we
you're
don't
just
try
like, I don't think that way anymore, So
And I also feel like we don't try to like make any really controversial opinions. Like we're literally just people on a podcast talking about stuff, And
yeah.
sometimes I feel like we have this level of responsibility because we do. Like we have a platform, we have a thing that people actively listen to. We have to be conscious of that. But also at the same time, like it's this weird dichotomy that I've started learning about from film, how like you take the most famous person in the world, right?
Hmm.
And they're just a fucking person at the end of the day,
Yeah.
right? They have those things that they like, they have the things that they don't like, and they have the things that they do that'll probably piss you off and make you not want to be around them a little bit, you know? Like I don't know. It's this weird
Mm-hmm.
dichotomy where I'm just realizing that like famous people are just people, and I could have one in my house tomorrow for all I know, and I don't know, that's okay. And I'm just kind of
Yeah.
like
I think
coming to
like
terms with that.
yeah, because like you with working in the film industry, you know, you're meeting these like celebrity status people, and then
Mhm.
like me through like Pagan Pride kind of organizing, I guess I tend to come across, I guess, like the witch celebrity people or whatever,
Mhm.
and you realize at the end of the day, like they're just people just like you.
Yeah.
That's it.
That that's
Mm-hmm.
actually something kind of interesting because I
Not
was
like in
wanting
a
to mention
negative way
this.
though. Like not like in a oh they're a
Yeah.
piece, like no, it's just we're all just people.
Totally. We're all human beings, right? And that's what I was gonna say is I was in the local occult shop here because I moved back to the area it's in, and I always do this thing where I go into occult shops or into chapters when I get to the occult section. I look for authors I know, right?
Hmm.
Because I swear to God, I'm that person who reads by author, not by topic, you know? Because like anybody could write a book on Celtic paganism. It's a matter of whether or not you actually have done good research and your facts or something I want to read,
Yeah, I
right?
think
So
I'm
like
That is correct.
starting to become that way. I'm starting to become
yeah.
someone who reads by author. Actually, another thing that I've started to do is like before I would just kind of walk into a bookstore and just kind of look around. But like Philly, we have a really huge lack of good occult shops. We have one and it's
Mhm.
not great. And then the other sources to get books are just like either secondhand stores or Barnes and Noble, which is very
Yeah.
commercialized. So what I've been doing now is whenever I see like a publisher that I really like, I'll find their catalog. Like I'll subscribe to their
Mhm.
catalog and like I'll just bookmark their website and now I just go to. So really I guess more like I read by publisher. That's what I've been doing lately.
That's another good way to do it too, because those authors are still tied in up with the same publisher,
Mhm.
right? You're always going to be
Mm-hmm.
able to find their works. Um, and that's something I was going to say too. It's kind of funny because I go into those occult shops and I'm looking for friends, right? I kind of have noticed this interesting disconnect in the occult community I want to talk about. We have people who I'm going to call teachers, right? Because they're old witches and they're not necessarily trying to take it upon themselves to be teachers, but it's something that they naturally do
Mhm.
given the amount of time and experience they have. And then you have people who are new and learning who know all about this magic, right? So, like, I had two completely different conversations in that occult shop, right? They
Mhm.
had a young person who was talking about like sigil magic, and they like straight up knew what they were talking about. They're like, yeah, you know, I've got some personal made sigils I've done, but I feel like they don't have as much oomph as these planetary seals do. And then I was going off about how, you know, if the planetary seals are actually made in the correct hour, in the correct day, then they have a lot of oomph, and how most people who make them don't even pay that much attention to the planetary hours. And I even like added caveats about how like sometimes on Solomonic pentacles, like the Hebrew can be off. And like we had a really cool conversation about how like the lady who makes these actually is Jewish, so she knows the
Hmm.
Hebrew, and if it's been like degraded over the ages, she's like upgrade like put it as what it's supposed to be. So
Hmm.
that's really cool. And
That's
she's
neat.
doing it in the planetary hours. So I'm like, as soon as I get paid, I'm coming back with $75 and buying that 6 of Mars, you know.
Fucking right.
Um literally worth its weight in silver. But like we were having a really good conversation on the difference between sigils that you've used and developed versus sigils that have been passed on throughout the ages, right? And I was saying how those how the planetary seals have a lot of oomph because like practitioners have been using these for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, and you have all that collective belief and weight and association passed on through the symbol, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
how if you're wanting to do that with a personal developed sigil, you're going to have to back end it a lot more to give it that type of resonance or do it in some kind of group work, which is just not advice that somebody who doesn't practice often is going to be able to give you, you know? So,
That
like,
is true,
we
yeah.
were having that conversation. And then I was asking the owner lady about like stuff they're gonna get in and how like they're really out of books, but they don't necessarily know who to order. And I realized like a lot of older occultists aren't necessarily too in like social media or in new platforms. They're kind of they have their old ways of doing things that they've developed for ages, meeting with their covenant in a bowling alley or in a tavern or something, and they've got all of these older methods set up. And there's a massive amount of really good occult literature going on right now. Like, I would even go as far as to say that we're in a renaissance between like all of the people on Instagram that we see who are writing books, like Matt Oren and all those other people. So like,
I would agree with
I
that.
feel
Yeah.
like I feel like as a podcast, I want us to like talk about authors and books and new stuff and like get a really good list of stuff that we can start sharing with people, because like I can't tell you how many old occultists I've heard tell me, like actively say, nobody's making anything good anymore. It's all just repeats. And I slap my legs and I'm like, what? You have to like read this and you have to read this. And then they're like, oh, okay. Didn't expect a whole recommended reading list, but there
That
really
old
is that
Scott
kind of,
Cunningham. No, sorry.
yeah. Seriously though, they'll always have their Cunningham, right? But they're not going to necessarily have their
Corinne Boyer.
Corinne
yeah.
Boyer.
As
Oh,
far
I
as
recently picked up a book from Thorn Mooney, The Witch's Path, I believe.
Yeah.
Was the name of the book. I have not yet opened it. It was an impulse buy. It's on the pile, but I'm very excited to read it. I brought it camping, and I never read it.
I was just watching Thorn the other day. She was she just made a video about our older practitioners, like our experienced practitioners, obligated to be teachers. That was what her video was on. It was interesting.
What was her take?
My hot take is no.
It's my hot take too. So that's what she got to in the end as well, essentially.
You heard it here, folks.
She just, she says it in a very diplomatic or polite way, whatever.
It's an eloquent, diplomatic way.
Yeah.
We don't do that here. No.
What are those big words?
Eloquence? We don't know her. What are you talking about?
We're just heathens. We're just heathens giving bad opinions that we're eventually going to get dragged for.
Yeah.
What's up?
No.
But speaking of like huge life improvements, I guess I have a job now, and it's kind of funny. I haven't been sent the offer letter yet, but basically I've been told by 5 different people that I have the job. So, and the funny thing is, it's for a recruiting company. Whoop-de-doo. It's an accounting position for whatever. But it's a job, and it's working with a very good friend of mine, which is always makes everything easier.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that the potential for me to be handling contracts with Amtrak is very high.
Which is hilarious.
Considering the fact that I am still actively employed by Amtrak, because just today I received benefits information for 2021 when I was effectively terminated in December of 2021.
Yeah, they still haven't terminated you properly.
They still haven't terminated me yet. So I've just like been spending like the last 4 months just living my best life on unemployment. And now I'm going to rejoin the workforce. Yay.
Yay.
But I also wanted to mention a book that I was reading while we had a wonderful 36 hours in the woods in nature away from all of the city. And that was I realized that I have a statue in my house of Iris, and I didn't even know who she was when I bought the statue. And I actually found a book from her name is Iris Anyamoon, on Iris, and like what deity worship looks like for her. And she's if anybody's not familiar, she's the Greek goddess of rainbows, and she's the messenger between specifically her and Zeus.
I was going to ask for clarification, be like, do you mean Isis? I don't know if I've heard of an Iris.
No, not Isis, Iris. Iris. But yes, of the Greco-Roman pantheon, I guess you can say.
Yeah, Iris kind of came into our lives unexpectedly through a flea market. We went to an antique flea market, like just outside Philly, and there was like this statue that like this guy he was just selling like just yard statues, like bronze statues or whatever. I think they're bronze. I actually don't quite know. I think it's bronze.
Yes, they are.
They're bronze. Okay. Yeah, and then we saw this statue of, this like Greco-Roman looking kind of goddessy figure, and we were like, okay, like we're just gonna buy it because it looked cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, we were like, that's cool, and
That's neat.
right, so we bought it, and we finally we did the research and we looked it up, and it was Iris, and we had never heard about her before.
Oh shit.
M to Apollo and Lito was. I'm reading. I apologize.
Oh no,
I'm
yeah,
reading
no,
about
no,
it.
Don't
you're good.
apologize.
Never apologize for reading.
Never. But yeah, she's mentioned in some of the old epics. She's sometimes actually confused with Hecate, because she was also sent to Demeter to calm Demeter down after Persephone was taken by Hades. So she could be confused with a couple of other what they classify as minor goddesses, I guess.
Can I go on a
don't-
5-second rant about Hecate?
Of course.
She is so absurdly misunderstood. I was flipping through a D&D book, and they're like, deities and gods, and they had my lady Hecate listed as chaotic evil, and I was so fucking offended, man. Holy shit.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like a lot of real figures in D&D that like I have to kind of be like, I don't like this. Like the whole thing with like banshees being evil, I was like, nope, that's gone. Gargoyles are
Yep.
evil. I'm like, nope, they're there to stop evil. I'm like, no, mythology has to change.
Yeah, and it's like, you mean to tell me Hecate, the goddess to help, like, Persephone be found after she had been abducted, you mean to tell me her chaotic good ass is somehow chaotic evil for what reason?
Witchcraft.
Because
Witchcraft.
D&D.
Right, because D&D.
Pop culture.
Yeah.
Here, I'll give you a soundbite for that.
No, what were we just watching recently? Well, we started watching Lucifer again. That hilarious show where Lucifer's gotten whatever.
Yeah, Lucifer becomes God. Spoiler.
Spoilers. Oh god.
Oh god.
But yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm here. Sometimes we just have dips in the middle of the episode that we normally get Jay to edit out. I almost said you edit, Scott.
Wow. That would be bad.
What have you been doing, Scott?
Cut it out.
What have I been doing?
Yeah, you've been MIA, silent.
I really have
mysterious.
been MIA, like super MIA.
I know, off grid.
I really wish that I could there's really I guess I hibernated, but it was different somehow. I don't really know. What I think really happened was I think I don't know. I've been having really intense sessions with my therapist and stuff.
Mhm.
It's just been stuff like that, and just trying to get my shit together. You know,
Are you back in school? Because I know you were enrolling for a minute there.
I am well. I'm not currently back in school. So
Okay.
the what was supposed to be happening was summer 1, but so now I'm shooting for summer 2. But they need me to fill out this ridiculous form because of nonsense that happened with one of my classes. So I got my start date wrong.
Mm.
I don't know if we talked about this. I don't know if I got to tell you. So I
I
got
don't
my
know.
I got my start date wrong, and I thought that my start date was the 7-week program start date, which was a week after the general 10-week
Yeah.
program starts. And I mixed it up because of course I wasn't really all there when I'm applying and doing stuff, because I often
It's a simple mistake anyone could have done, though. I mean,
Right.
we do shit like that all the time.
Because I did that, I was late for my classes and I freaked out and I dropped the course. But then because it's a week after, I still have to apparently pay that money because it was too late to drop.
Mm.
But then I'm like, well, I wasn't there, so you're not getting my money. I'm not paying you for something I didn't do. And but then they're like, well, you have to explain to us what happened. And then you have to tell us about all this other stuff. They want stuff because they basically were like, you have to build a case for yourself so we can give you your money back for this class you didn't take. And I was like, this is so fucking stupid. Just fucking let me go to school. The fuck, man. I'm trying I'm trying really hard. You know what I mean? This shit's hard for me. This shit is so triggering for me. And I'm trying my ass off, and they don't make it easy. You know what I'm saying?
No, because at the end of the day, it's really not about education. It's about the money. It's
right.
It's
academia is a business.
Yeah,
Right.
honestly, Scott, like for someone who has like gone all the way up to getting a master's, and I know you have like lofty goals of getting like big ass degrees and stuff. It's just like I almost want to tell you like it's not worth it because I know it's not worth it, but unfortunately, like to do what you want to do, you have to get that fucking piece of paper.
If I could do it in a way that like would make me happy,
Yeah,
I don't. The thing is that like if I'm gonna be a therapist, which is what I really, really want to do with my life, and like after being in therapy, I want it even more.
yeah. I really
Um,
wonder, like, can you just skip the schooling and just take the licensing test? Like, can someone just do that? Like,
I
can you just
really don't
teach
think so.
yourself how to
no,
be a
I
therapist?
really
too,
don't think so.
it's so
Damn.
heavily regulated because the risk and the things
Yeah.
that go through it, like you have to be. It's a skilled profession, which is why
Damn.
generally you find that you need to have a graduate degree to do really anything with it.
Right.
I could
Hmm.
be a counselor, and I am going to get a certificate program for counseling because CCP does have a 4-month counseling certification program that
Okay.
you can take alongside your degree. And I am going to do that so that way I can get. I want to do LGBTQ plus counseling, so it teaches you how to, essentially counsel LGBTQ plus people.
That's
Um,
awesome.
so that way I can get a job. I mean, I'll obviously, still be under people, very under, but it's still a counseling position. Um, so I still want to, I would like to at least try to start getting myself in there. Um, but yeah, so that's pretty much just honestly what I've been doing. I've been like very mundane,
Hmm.
but um I have started getting back into magic in a way that I realize I think that I don't know how to put this. I think I finally realized that like my whole life I think I never really understood how like real your life and your magic should be one thing, and it shouldn't necessarily be like my magic is this time and my life is this time.
Hmm.
I think like for me I need them to kind of coexist, if I'm making any sense here.
Hmm.
Like and I
You're
think
making a
I
ton of
thought,
sense.
huh?
Oh,
Oh,
sorry, I just said that you're making a ton of sense.
okay. And I think I always thought that I was doing that, but I wasn't, and I realized that my magic wasn't really working the way I wanted it to, if it would even work at all. And now that like I'm kind of doing magic not unintentionally, but like just on the fly. I could whisper into the wind and I have effects like that. And I was like, Jesus, okay, finally, you know?
Hmm.
I'm like, so this is what I needed the whole time. And like the other day, it was so awesome. I posted about it. I didn't tell people what happened, but I can tell you guys. I just can't tell.
Yeah, I saw your vague book
Yeah.
post.
So that's why I'm kind of
Hmm.
really happy because I wanted to tell you guys about it. I was like really excited. Um, so I was outside just like giving honor to the spirits in the land and just like, um, giving some offering and whatnot. And it was really cool. So at first point, like, so the first thing that happened was this part can kind of be written off as just, it was a cloudy day and it was going to rain, but it hadn't rained yet. And I step outside and I start calling on, the crow, the hare, the serpent and toad, the familiars of the four roads, and I'm calling on their spirits to just be with me and just to have a moment together. And as I'm doing this, the wind starts to pick up gently, not like crazy or anything, just enough. And all of a sudden, it started spitting these big drops of rain, and it was just spitting. And then it and it just did it for a few moments, and it stopped. And
Wow.
then the crazy thing happened is I started kind of calling on like the ancestors and the land whites in the like of the land and in the land and all this other stuff you know thanking them for being with me, all this other stuff. And as I'm calling on like my lineal ancestors, the mighty dead, etc., all of a sudden I hear footsteps behind me. Jay, you know how my backyard is set up. I was on
Yeah.
that top step thing, that porch,
Hmm.
and I'm standing there kind of just like looking out over the yard, and I hear footsteps coming up in the kitchen, and the back door opens. Now I thought it was Darian coming down to go to work. I thought he was saying goodbye or whatever.
Hmm.
So like I was just smiling, and sometimes when Darian catches me doing like prayers and invocations, he leaves me alone and he'll wait.
Right.
And I felt like this warm, watched over feeling, which is, of course you would get that from your partner,
Mm-hmm.
And so I let it go, and after like 5 minutes, the door closes. And I'm like, and I finally eventually wrap up what I'm doing. I still myself, I center, and I take a deep breath, and I go back inside. And Darian's not downstairs. He's not in the basement getting clothes. I know he's upstairs, and I'm like, babe, where are you? He's like, he's like, I'm in the bathroom. And I was like, oh, did you come downstairs yet? He goes, no, I wasn't down there. And like I had the most happiest smile on my face, like because like the way that they just like were like, we are still right where you left us. You know what I mean? Like we're right where you think you
Definitely.
left us. Like we have not went anywhere. And it was just so comforting. It was just so empowering, and it felt really good to like, and I finally have an understanding of exactly how I need my witchcraft to work in my life. You know what I mean? And I think that I mean, not all the time, like, don't get me wrong, like, I'm not off the idea of, like, doing, like, planned rituals and stuff. It's just that I think, when I like, how I've always wanted to have a consistent practice of some kind, and I've always thought it had to be, like, either elaborate or even, like, semi-elaborate, and it always kinda went down and down and down, and then it was finally like, well, I don't know, spirits always want their thing, and then I realized that sometimes just a sacrifice of, some of your own time and literally your energy. I always love to do the meditation, sort of an energetic offering
Mm.
technique that Jason Miller gave in one of his books, and that seems to be a great steady practice. You know what I mean? And it just really helped to just be like, prayers, devotion, and invocations, at least semi-daily, maybe like once or twice a week. And for me, and it works really well. I finally, I guess, I found my I don't know, my juju or whatever, not to use
Your
that word,
groove.
excuse me. My
The
groove,
the
thank you.
emperor found his groove.
I found my groove, and I'm back, and I mean, I'm still, I guess, withdrawn, but I think that also just comes with sort of, uh, I've seen too much online, and it's kind of like got me like, there's sometimes, I mean, here it feels better now. Like it's funny because
Right.
even as I'm talking to all of you, this actually feels like the appropriate place to talk about it. I just feel like maybe that there are some spaces where it's not always appropriate to talk about witchcraft for me.
I know
I
what you
really
mean.
feel that. I feel
Yeah.
Like um this is an appropriate place, but like, like Facebook, for instance, isn't necessarily, or I think that and the reason I think that is because like I love uh Sophia, what you said about people being people, and I'm realizing that like we're all
Mhm.
gonna everyone's gonna uh you know butt horns, and we can all be quirky, and we all kind of we're all gonna sometimes rub someone the wrong way, you know
Yeah, that's inevitable.
and I think though that I think when it comes to magic, in order for me to take it seriously, to see it as sacred, but to also have fun with it, um, but the thing is like to have fun with it, you still have to find it sacred. You know what I'm saying? And I think
Mm-hmm.
when you over talk about it, when you overshare, um, you start to degrade its sacredness.
Almost
And
like you capitalize on it, in a way.
yeah, yes, 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 yes. It kind of becomes soulless. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I have a lot of thoughts on this too because like I've had times where I've struggled a lot to learn this lesson because I'm somebody who, I've talked about the assault of on reality a lot before and how like any act of magic pushes us towards a world where magic is more applicable, right?
Right.
So I've kind of adopted an outlook and disposition where I'll just talk about it anytime. But there's a lot of things that you can talk about and it's totally fine. and then there's certain things you just shouldn't be fucking saying, right? I had a time where I was sitting with a friend, right? And this friend was completely feeling awful and like feeling disconnected from her magic, and I tried to tell her about something that had happened with me, and she's somebody who actually kind of like disbelieves in it almost as a whole at this point, right?
Mm.
And like I told her a really powerful experience of mine, and it was like stuff I wouldn't even tell most people, but like I did. And immediately I burnt a hole in my one of my favorite dresses, like that black dress you see me wearing all the time. I put a hole in it, and I still haven't fixed it since, and I haven't worn it since,
Hmm.
because I talked about a really personal experience. I could tell you all about it, but I couldn't tell you all about it on recording. It's one
Mhm.
of those things.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So I talked about that to someone in a situation where I thought it was going to be okay, and they burnt my favorite fucking dress, literally on me, and almost like burnt my leg as a consequence, right? And
So,
then
like,
there's
they
other
did that on
times,
purpose? Like, the
yes,
person did
absolutely
that on
reprimand me.
purpose?
No, no, the
Oh.
spirits did.
Oh, because I was like, wait a minute, hold up.
Yeah, because like I was smoking weed, and like
Right,
my
okay.
cherry just magically somehow fell out of my pipe, and I've been smoking
Just
weed since I
yeeted
was
itself right
15.
out of there.
And it landed in my dress and happened to
Damn.
like light itself up and cause a fire in my crotch, right?
Damn, that sucks.
It actually slightly burnt my leg, but I was more upset about just having the dress been burnt, right? But sometimes you're just not supposed to talk about certain things. So I feel you, Scott,
Right.
I've had to sit with that with a few episodes. Like the episode that I've come back to, I think that causes me the most anxiety is protest solidarity, or like that one where we talk about like indigenous rights and stuff, because I'm always like going back, I'm like, oh god, did I say something and misrepresent a point or put myself on like I'm more culturally connected than I am, or like, and I have a lot of anxieties about it. But like even when we recorded that one afterwards, I went and sat and thought about it, and I'm like, no, like you're fine. Like even when I gave my interpretation on like the works of oh god, I'm not going to remember his John Trudell. Thank you. When I was giving my interpretation on the works of him, that caused me a lot of anxiety. But I even couched it in, "Hey, this is just my opinion and interpretation, so please don't be upset if I'm wrong. This is just something I've drawn out of it, right?" And I feel like as long as we're talking from a really personal level, which is almost always what we're doing in the podcast,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of okay. We're not trying to like sit here and be like, "We're experts. This is what you should be thinking, this is correct, this is wrong," right? We're people who are going to be proven wrong about certain things that we say. I guarantee you could take the entire podcast and fact check everything, and you'll find some things that were incorrect. It's just
Of
Oh,
course.
because
hell
we
yeah.
don't go and look up every single thing that we say before we do, because we just don't have the energy. And we also kind of like grew up in a world where you couldn't just fact verify something on Google before saying it, so we don't have that like psychological process deeply ingrained into us to research every little thing before we say it. So people who are a little older even are a little bit more inclined to give unresearched opinions. And I
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say that, that's good or bad, right? Because like a lot of unresearched opinions in the world has led to a lot of bad stuff. But like if we're talking about things that are relating to like witchcraft and stuff, it's not like we're talking about like geopolitical issues that have tangible effects in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Although that said, like the things we do say do affect people. And oh god, even hearing some people be like, yeah, this is like a comfort podcast for me, I'm like, oh gosh, people like this so much. Like
I think it being like a comfort thing, because it's a conversation. Like, we
mhm,
really, like, I noticed that the podcast that the episodes that we've tried to really meticulously schedule and organize, they don't turn out as well. They don't turn out as good. And you can
I
hear
still feel
that
like our
in the
World of
recording.
Wordcrafting episode is probably one of the most informationally
It
um
is the most informationally it's actually the one that I'm working on editing now. It's
oh
so I'm
god.
taking my sweet baby Jesus time doing it, because I want it to
Mhm.
be like 100% on point.
He's been
Um
editing this episode for the past 3 days, I
yeah,
swear.
I mean, I've also I did kind of like skip I skipped a posting this month. It's been crazy. I've got slammed by both my
Mhm,
parents visiting me from Florida, so it's been spicy.
mhm.
Um But yeah, you're right, but I think what you were kind of saying, Scott, like maybe like what you're saying about like how not talking about witchcraft like on big social media, because like how you were saying like on
Yeah.
Facebook, right? Like yeah, to like
Mhm.
your general Facebook, but sometimes like if you have a smaller group, like a witchcraft oriented group or like a locals group or something like that, sometimes those conversations are better. So I just think it's not like witchcraft and the occult is just something that's like it doesn't do well when you talk about it on a large scale, like in a large
Yeah.
forum.
Mm-hmm.
Like it does
I,
better as like a niche, smaller thing.
mhm. I also
Right.
feel like that's kind of why I'm not looking for the podcast to blow up. Like I'm okay with it just being this informational source that's there for people who find it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what is considered like blowing up as like a podcast or as like a celebrity pagan or whatever, like I don't know like what that means because like
Mm.
we don't have like Matt Oren's net worth or like Christian Day's net worth. Like, do we have that information? You know what I mean? Like, is that even out there?
Do we want that
And
information?
that's the other thing. Do we want
Right.
that information? Because like, and honestly, like I would probably venture to say like and
Probably not.
honestly, like all the the popular pagan authors, they say it like ain't nobody like writing witchcraft books to get rich.
Hmm.
All right, it's paying the
They all say
bills
that,
for
yeah.
some of them, but no one's getting rich.
There's the
Doing it.
old joke that if you wanna wind up broken homeless, you should start writing occult books.
Yeah, so it's definitely a labor of love for sure.
Right.
But then I did have a very interesting conversation with Jim at our Ostara ritual that we had at the house, and
Can't wait for belting.
he was talking about one of the
Yeah, it's about
popular pagans. Who was it? One of the Salem witches, Christian Day.
Ugh.
Does
Who
he run the
knows?
Salem the witches ball up there or something like that?
Unfortunately, yes. One of them. Laurie Cabot runs the original one, but he runs
Right. Yeah,
his,
so
yeah.
Christian Day. So basically, I think Jim was saying, I don't know if he was exaggerating or this was an actual factual number that he got from somewhere. But he was saying like Christian Day makes like $1 million off that event. Like he himself
Wow.
makes $1 million.
Oh yeah, easy.
Wow.
Easy.
And once,
Easy.
and like honestly, I was floored. Like when I was like, Jim, no fucking way. He was like, I'm telling you. I'm like, Jim, no fucking way, dude. Like, and he was like, I'm telling you. So I don't know. It was an interesting conversation. And I was thinking about like how I read about other occult authors and they're like, look, like
Mhm.
we ain't rich, but then like there seems to be this whole other side. I don't know.
You
Maybe
know,
we can exist
I could
somewhere in
tell
the
you what
middle.
that is. I could tell you what that likely comes down to. So when it comes to witchcraft, right,
Mm,
I'm gonna call it a cultural niche, right? Even though it's not like respective to one individual culture,
right.
right? So you have people who practice it daily and have deep, immersive, rich experiences with it that they're not necessarily putting out there, right? And witchcraft as a culture is going to just keep chugging along and doing its thing regardless of what the world does, right?
Yeah,
Now,
I agree.
historically
Yeah.
there's not a lot of money in authorship. What's important in authorship is community building and image building, right?
Hmm.
So having witch celebrities is kind of important for like the visibility aspect, right? But if you want to see who's making bank on the occult world, go look at how much Blackcraft makes. Go look at their net worth on Google right now and find that out. I guarantee you they're making more money just selling merchandise with loose occult related symbolism on it. And let's be clear, like half the time I see somebody wearing a Blackcraft hoodie, it's like, cool, tell me that you like magic and looking occult without knowing a damn thing about it, without
Love it.
saying those words to me.
But
Ugh.
Sophia, sometimes they run deal. Look, I have a Blackcraft called hat, okay, because it had the
Look, I'm
devil
not gonna
face on
say
it.
I'm not saying that everybody who wears Blackcraft don't know practice, right? Like
But I
that's
agree, it
my
is a
my
popular
statement
brand.
is just that it's popular because it has imagery in it that people who are not practitioners can identify. They can look at the alchemical symbol of sulfur and go, "Hey, Satanists use that one," and they can point at the unicursal hexagram on the back, not even know what it is, and be like, "I think that's related to Thelema or Crowley." And if they even knew that, that's probably a
Right.
stretch. And they'll have like an upside down pentagram, and they'll be like, "That's what I'm buying this thing for, man. The down pointing pentagram," you know? Like
What's up?
that's it in a nutshell.
Second degree Wiccan initiation, which they are not.
Yeah,
None of
exactly.
them have ever
And that's
been.
and that's the thing, is like people who are like putting on rituals and writing books, they're not making money, man. You want to see people making money? Go check out how much money Hot Topic makes off of like occult related imagery in a single year.
It's such a delicate balance for me, right? Because like, you know, the little goth kid in me always will love Blackcraft Cult, will always love Hot Topic, and you know what I mean? Like, I'll always love that aesthetic because I'm a little goth kid at heart. But I also grew to be an occultist. So like, it's such a... But I also remember like one of my first pentagram necklaces I ever bought for myself was at Spencer's. So it's important to have that pop culture in there too.
And let me add an addendum here. This isn't to say that like I don't even think people should be wearing Blackcraft. You wear whatever the hell you want, man. Like, goth is a hell of a cool aesthetic. I'm not saying anybody should have to be like a practitioner to wear a pentagram, but just don't act like you are to me just because you dress like it, dude. Thank you. That's my whole point right there.
That is true. There is kind of a tendency to like, you know, I dress like a witch, therefore I am.
Therefore I am. Oh my god, we need that as like a podcast quote. I dress as a witch, therefore I am.
Oh my god, no, we need it as a fucking bumper sticker. So like,
get it on mugs, t-shirts, please. This is gonna be like our Instagram fucking.
You heard it here,
Anyways,
folks.
go ahead, Scott.
Although I will say that I kind of wish that, like, I mean, no, you don't have to be a practitioner to wear a pentagram, but maybe know what it means.
Right.
Like, I don't know. Like, once again, to kind of go back to the whole sacred thing, like, I think magic, once again, I do think magic should be fun, but I think that, like, we should also remember that it is, like, a deep spiritual experience. You know what I mean? A deeply spiritual practice. And I don't know, I think maybe a little respect, you know what you're wearing. You know what I mean? Because for some of us, it's like, for instance, can you imagine someone just kind of, you know how like, okay, there are people who on YouTube, for instance, who totally just for clout, you know, their whole thing is like going to abandoned places and looking for demons, you know, and you know, they'll find like and like they totally just like looked up like sigils or seals of something. And I remember one time this person had to really dig, but he found some obscure sigil from I don't know if it was Michael Ford or E.A. Coetting. Please don't read E.A. Coetting. But I don't know, it was some Luciferian text, and he had to really dig for it. And like, you know, like, it's a really niche sect of the occult, right? Luciferianism. And it was like on the wall, and he's like, "Oh, what is this?" You know, and like he's like, "We have to do a ritual," and like he found some like, you know, like now this or how to do this, whatever it's called on it was
like a
like
wiki
this old YouTube,
yeah,
and like how to hold a seance.
Oh god,
and I was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "That's not even. That's not even." You know, like, and it's just it's disrespectful. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like you can mock it, you can laugh at it, do whatever you want, you know, really on your own time, but don't go like drawing these symbols on the ground like they don't, like, you might not believe in it, but regardless of your belief in it, it will not change
the consequences.
That the fact that that thing is a flag to something, it is a beacon to something. You don't have to believe that thing, but if you, I mean, everyone here knows if you conjure something with no intention of having no reason for doing it. You know what I mean? You're gonna face some consequences, like Jay said. You know what I mean? And it's like that kind of like, you know. So once again, you can love a witchy aesthetic all you want to. You know I do love my witchy cottagecore.
Oh my god, I love that you said cottagecore, Scott. I had to process an invoice or a check today. What the name of the fucking vendor was Cottage Care, but my brain kept reading it as cottagecore, and I just been thinking about like cottagecore lesbian TikToks all day for some fucking reason.
It's a good aesthetic, okay?
Cottagecore.
It's a really good aesthetic. If you haven't checked it out, go to Etsy right now and type in cottagecore. You're welcome.
Yes.
You know,
Agreed.
and it's you know it, and but even that, like, it's funny because even in cottagecore, I can critique cottagecore too, because they like to do they like to make spirit traps from a lot, like from European magical systems, with like from animistic, you're like where they like bind wood together and like string and stuff like that. Or like then they also, a lot of people love the aesthetic of the Nordic spirit trap, which is essentially a lot of sticks all kind of, you bore a hole through the center of them and you put them all together and you hang them by your front door. I don't really know how to describe it. It's just like a long line of like.
I can find a link for the show notes.
Yeah.
That's probably similar to that tradition we heard on the podcast mention. I think it was you who mentioned how you hang a sieve over a door because a spirit has to pass it through every single hole.
Right. Or count it depending on the lore. Exactly. It probably does. It's a really old idea from many cultures, honestly. So yeah, but like people will hold, like, because it looks so it looks very aesthetic, it looks witchy. They put these things up, they hang these things up, and they have no clue about their significance. You know what I mean? And whether you think that because their intention isn't behind it and it's just an object, or whether you see it more like the years of people believing that that thing does that thing, you know, so therefore it's doing that thing regardless. I still think you should know what you're putting up. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I have this like mental image of like a story, or like maybe like a comic or movie or something of just like these witches, you know, middle-aged, burnout us, you know, and like kids are just doing dumb shit, just like drawing like demon fucking summoning circles in the middle of the city, and like we gotta be like, all right guys, we gotta mobilize and fucking deal with this shit now. Like like what a great premise for like a comic book series or something, you know.
That'd be cool. It's just like the book that we wanted to write before.
Yeah, I still think about that. I'm still, the idea is still there. It has never left.
One time I went on like this hyper focused like writing about it, just like writing just general ideas for it on my Google Doc, but I don't know where it is. I don't know if I deleted it by accident, but
Well,
I get
if
it.
you find it, send it to me because I'd love to read that.
But yeah, sorry for that tangent.
No, it brought me into something that I was thinking about. I mentioned how we're in kind of an occult renaissance right now, and like,
Absolutely.
I think about this often. Anime, like people love to do anime and comics about all kinds of things based off of
All
historic
kinds of
figures.
things.
And
I
I think
am
about how many
amazed.
times Aleister Crowley gets brought up and stuff, and then I slowly start putting my hands on my face and think about how I'm involved in books with the DKMU and stuff. I'm like, am I gonna be in an anime when I'm dead for 100 years and I'm being referenced later on? Like, is that gonna happen?
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I don't know. I said last night when I was at a photo shoot that, and I quote, I think the pinnacle of fame that one can reach is to achieve meme status. And I really stand by that.
Yeah. Memeable to what degree, though? Like, memeable within the niche community, or like a meme within... I guess it depends on your level of celebrity fame.
Mm-hmm. But, like, for example, everybody knows the Drake meme.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The one where he's like, he has his hands up or something. He's like,
I could just do it with noises. Listen. Ah.
This is reminding me of like the one thing that I like really enjoy watching on TikTok right now, which is like all the old Vine people, like whether they were kids or not, but
Yeah.
they're all old like us now, and like they're all like like you even have the person who did the berries and cream, berries and cream. I'm a little
Oh.
lad who loves berries and cream, and even he's on there, and I'm just like, I love this so much.
The nostalgia.
Yeah, the nostalgia. Millennial nostalgia. It's almost like a
Speaking of
pathology.
speaking of those videos, the one that always reminds me of myself as a kid is the one where the kid's running around the pool and they're like, "What has he got in his hand?" I'm like, "What do you got?" And he's like, "Knife!" And they're like, "Oh my god, why does he have a knife?" And I'm like, "Oh my god, is this out of my childhood? Is this a recording of me here?" I like literally was that kid. I grab a knife and just run around with it and be like, "Why does he have a knife?" And be like, "Oh my god." That video, that's me as a kid right there. Just
That's
not
amazing.
literally, but spiritually, that's me.
Y'all want to talk about shadow work through like media consumption, because obviously my interaction of the social kind is very limited because I can't stand anyone on the internet anymore.
Same.
But I have watched finally both seasons of Euphoria, because obviously my
Oh
namesake,
god.
and I don't remember giving Zendaya permission to use my life story, but here we are. Hi, my name is Rue, and I had a pill popping opiate addiction in high school because
Mm.
my mother was a cancer survivor and I was queer. Like, the scary thing is, I have a sister who is in high school now, and watching that show terrified me, but also like allowed me to recognize just how different of an experience. Just I was in high school, oh god, like 18 years ago now, and my sister currently being in there, and it's the same stuff is happening, and it's just at a 100% basically. Like the oxys that I would steal from my mother is kids now doing heroin in the hallways, and I'm like, what?
Mm-hmm.
I just and like I get where people are saying like it can be seen as like glamorizing like um certain problematic things amongst the youth, because it does take a very glamorous approach to drug use and sex with adults when they are minors. Obviously
Oh
everyone in the movie,
god.
everyone in the show is over 18, but they are portrayed to be in high school. So all of the characters are aged between 14 and 16. Like they show the main character basically develops her drug addiction at about 12 because she's neurodivergent.
Mm.
So I'm just like, I'm like, well, doesn't that just show like how much improvement? Because I couldn't even watch Midsummer like I couldn't even
Mm.
finish the movie because it triggered such things so terribly, and now I'm just like sitting there watching Euphoria, like, oh, this is interesting.
Mhm. I mean, I saw a very brief bit about Euphoria on a video. I'm subscribed to a service called Nebula that's by like a bunch of leftist content creators on YouTube. And like, I feel like there is not a lot of content that I wanted on there. Like, the stuff that I was looking for wasn't really there. But it is what it is. And one of the content creators I do watch is a therapist who does videos about stuff and how she reacts and explains a lot of the processes going on. And I don't want to say I use it as like a replacement for therapy because like I don't have access to that, but like she has a lot of really good points, right? And it's like listening to a therapist talk is like listening to a therapist talk, right?
Exactly.
So she examines a lot of stuff, and she examined Euphoria, and I haven't watched the show. And I just was like going through her list of videos because I was like picking up therapy advice that day, and then she's like doing a video on examining Jules, right? And then it talks about her going into like the mental health thing, and I was like, I didn't even know that Jules is trans. And then like towards the end of the video, then like the therapist's like, and then she started experiencing like not being comfortable in her body, and I'm like, why is this really like what? And I'm like, but that's, and I was like, gears were turning, and I'm like, I don't know. And then she talks about how she comes out as trans and gets supported by her parent and how that affected her. And then I realized that that is exactly the opposite of what I had. And I just broke down and had like a whole fucking PTSD episode right then. And I was like, nope, we need to stop this and put this away for another day. But like, yeah, it's a lot.
I watched I did recently re-download TikTok. It's just like a Smurf account. I don't care about the app in particular, but I do like seeing particularly like the therapists and like people trying to spread good information to the youth, I guess you can say, at wide.
Mhm.
And there was this great video of like it was just like this little animation of this guy walking down the stairs and like open the door, and it was like a nightmare thing, and it's like this is what confronting your trauma is. And it's like shadow work is basically walking into that room and closing the door and comforting yourself until it's not scary anymore. And I think if more people would just, it doesn't even have to just be witchcraft, if people just were willing to accept their traumas and work with their traumas, they would be surprised that they could just move past them and it
I'll
wouldn't
say this though. Sometimes it's complicated. I have traumas I haven't even told anyone in this podcast because it's like I feel like
yeah, and
people just wouldn't
obviously
understand.
situation differs for everyone.
So like I don't know, it's sometimes you just can't open up about certain things, especially if you feel like people won't believe you, right?
100%. Imposter syndrome is real.
Damn, it got heavy for the end of an episode.
But also sometimes, like, I think I find with shadow work is sometimes, like, you just have to talk to yourself about it. You don't necessarily have to talk to anyone else about it. Like, you don't, like, no one else really has to know, maybe whatever that thing is, but if you can confront, like, yourself about it, I think that's...
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of what you're getting at.
Depends.
Yeah, there are definitely times where even I can like work through my like something myself. You know, like I find that and even in the past I have too, like just other things, you know what I mean? Um and it's definitely a good exercise to do that too, you know, when you can. You know what I mean? Like if there's stuff that's hurting you and you're able to lean into that and you know, confront that with you know on your own time, and if you feel like it's a safe thing for you to do and you manage it, that's great too. You know what I mean? Like that's
Mhm.
normal, you know. You know, I think that shows a great strength, and it shows uh a lot of how would I say this? Yeah, it
Resilience.
just shows yeah, resilience. It definitely just shows it actually shows a level of progress. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Um you know, so I definitely think being able to move through some things on your own, uh, definitely is a good thing, for sure.
Absolutely. We are actually, like, coming up on an hour, so I was curious if anyone had any kind of, like, concluding thoughts that they kind of wanted to share, or anything that we wanted to talk about that we didn't quite get to yet.
Mm, do I? I don't think so.
Well, there you go.
I'll have to work on putting together that list of authors and recommended rating with y'all sometime.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
I'll jump in on that. So like once it gets created, I don't know if you guys are gonna like share a document or something
Yeah, we could,
or share it on here just to organize it. But either way, whatever. I can
yeah,
do it on here too. I just forget to use Discord.
I know it's such a struggle because I know, like, Sophia basically lives on Discord, and then
Discord, yeah.
Scott,
No, I
you
don't.
live on Well, no, you don't do anymore.
Not anymore,
Oh,
no.
okay, sorry. I thought Discord was kind of like your main squeeze, like.
It is, but I'm not involved with it as seriously as I used to be.
Hmm.
Oh,
So then maybe we could just do a Google Doc, and that might be the easiest way to do it. There you go.
all right,
That
cool.
works out.
Yeah, just Jay, you have my email,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I have
All
everyone's
right,
email.
cool.
My
All right,
mother
yeah,
is
so
in town until the 19th, so who knows what I'm gonna be doing before that.
Mhm.
oh
um,
man.
But yes, anyone know their concluding thoughts? I guess we're gonna wrap it up here. This was kind of just like another catch-up episode. The last time we recorded was like March 16th. It's April 6th now, and I don't think we had everyone for the last one. I don't think you were here, Scott.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, you
No,
weren't
I
here
had
for
that weird power outage that happened everywhere in South
Yes.
Philly that no one wants to talk about. Super mysterious, and it kind of freaks me out.
So yeah, I think with that we will kind of wrap up the conversation here. I hope you all enjoyed this kind of talk that went on a million different branches, and we will see you in the next one.
Bye, everyone. I missed you all. I'm glad I'm back. Bye.
Bye.
Love you guys.